We need to talk about Crisis Core Reunion because I have all of the feelings about it. Zack Fair, or Zack Fair, is definitely the best Final Fantasy character of all time. That's not my personal opinion, that's definitely a fact. But seriously, I need everybody to appreciate my boy Zaccaria in his journey that he went through in Crisis Core Reunion. But I get that life is busy, sometimes you don't have time to play a game, sometimes you don't even have time to watch somebody fangirl. Zack Fan Club? I want to be president of Zack Fan Club. Now accepting applications. You all better sign up for the Zack Fan Club. And cry. It's just so sad. Over Final Fantasy Darlings, okay? And that's where I come in. To give you an impassioned play-by-play of this game, chapter by in-game chapter. So come take a walk with me as we stroll through the beautiful, emotional road that is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. And heads up, that means I will be spoiling the entire game for you, so just so you know, you have been warned. Prologue, aka Chapter 0. So we start off the game, of course, with our boy Zack. He is living his best life as Soldier Second Class, and he looks extremely young. He is very young, got that wild, vibrant, young energy. And what's an all-caps soldier versus this little small, lowercase soldier? It's basically the same thing. The thing that you need to know about Soldier, all caps, is they are run by Shinra, which is a company we will get into. They're big stinky, okay? That's all you need to know. And this company infuses humans with Mako energy to make them like supercharged soldiers instead of soldiers. Think of the Captain America. He's skinny boy, and he go in the machine, and then he come out all buff. It's basically that. And on this mission, we also meet Angeal Hewley, who is basically Zack's senpai. He's Soldier First Class. He has a goatee, he's got a big buster sword, and he does not even almost look 25. You know how this goes. You know Final Fantasy. Listen, I know some of the people in the Final Fantasy family ship these two, but to me, they have like very much this older brother, younger brother, parents went missing, so older brother is raising the younger brother vibes. But regardless, they have a special bond. It's very clear at the start of the game, and that goes throughout, so just keep note of that. That is canon. The special bond is canon. I'm not really going to be talking about the fighting in this video. This is more of a, like, just walking through the plot. But something I will say about the fighting is there's a lot of it in this game, let me tell you. And when you start a battle, you hear...
Activating combat mode.
And when it's over, you hear...
Conflict resolved.
I don't know who this lady is, but we always hear her, so... There's also a literal slot machine on the side of the screen when you fight. It's called the Digital Mind Wave, or DMW. And the DMW is basically the power of friendship. That's like the cut and dry of what it is. Zack will remember past things with different friends that he makes, and they will help him with this like really cute limit break depending on who it is. At the end of this mission, Zack gets too overconfident, breaks his sword, and it's revealed this was all just a simulation. It wasn't real. Angeal also introduces his catchphrase, "Embrace your dreams. If you want to be a hero, you need to have dreams and honor." Chapter 1. He wouldn't betray me. The chapter starts with Zack doing squats. This boy, something you need to know about Zack. This boy's always doing squats, okay? This boy has knees of steel, okay? We meet Kunsel, a faceless soldier. He always keeps his little thingy on. And mini spoilers here, likes us a whole lot more than Zack likes him. So just put that in a little mind bank. Remember that for later. Zack's been restless because his training was put on hold until today. We meet the director of Soldier, Lazard Ducericus, which is an extremely Squeenix name, let's be real. And something you need to know about this man. He wears a navy blazer with white pants and black shoes. Okay, so clearly, he's a man that makes questionable decisions. He also looks like he's got his buccal fat removed in his cheeks. Is it just me that he's totally giving me that vibe? Anyway, Lazard is like, yo, this first-class soldier, and first-class soldier, that's the top. There's not higher than that. This first-class soldier named Genesis took some second and thirds and, like, totally disappeared. What is happening? Can you and Angeal figure it out? Because we need to figure this out. And Zack gets to go on this mission because Angeal recommended him. He's trying to get him, like, upgraded to first. Zack is extremely puppy about the situation. He just has no, like, professional, like smooth bone in his body. So he's always like, oh my god, Angeal, I love you. And is like hugging him and just like even greeting Lazard. He's like, hey, what's up? It's like, bro. We love to see an earnest puppy dog energy person, okay? But before they go on their mission, Lazard asks Zack what's his dream. And Zack says, to become a hero. And Lazard it kind of shades him and is like, oh, that's nice, sweetheart. It's nice to have unattainable dreams like that. And Zack's like, thanks. Anyway, we get some tutorials, you know, all that stuff. But we get introduced to Mail, which is basically emails that Zack receives from literally everybody. The boy is popular. Everyone's blowing his phone up all of the time. But here's the thing with Mail, okay? Each time you get something, it gets put in a different folder. So there's like a friends folder. There's a folder for Lazard because he sends us a lot of stuff that's more businessy. Kunsel, who is like, hey, we're friends, right? Hey, Zack, my pal. He really seems like he's friends with us. But when we get messages from Kunsel, he does not go in the friend folder. He goes in the soldier folder. So, mission start. So we're in Wutai. We're basically beating up people who are defending their homeland to end the war. I'm not going to get into the war with Wutai too much, but basically Zack is convinced that he's on like the good side and that Shinna is just helping the Wutai people, okay? And they don't understand that they're being helped. During this mission, we get some backstory on Angeal. Basically that he was poor, he had a rich friend, and he's like, do you know what these apples are called? They're called dumb apples. They're purple and white on the inside. And they grow in his hometown of Banora. He also explains that he never uses the Buster Sword that he carries around all the time because he's trying to preserve it from wear, tear, and rust. But when Zack is in a pinch towards the end of this chapter, he uses that sword, saying, you're a little more important to me, but just a little. We also officially meet Sephiroth, the hero, in this chapter. I think everybody watching this video knows who Sephi is. Silver-haired Adonis. He's another first-class soldier, and Zack kind of fanboys over him, like, oh my god, it's really you. Because basically, as of right now, Sephi is very, very famous as the first-class soldier. He's like probably the top out of everybody. And Zack and Sephi end up splitting up from Angeal, and they find Genesis? But it's not Genesis. There's two Genocide. Genesises? What's going on? And Sephi is like, oh, they're just Genesis copies. You know, human cloning. The huge. And then Sephi is also like, you know, I guess Angeal joined Genesis. Like, he betrayed, he bounced, he's out of here, we can't find him, he's gone, girl. And Zack says the title of the chapter, he wouldn't betray me, and his friends, and you, and everyone. It's very pure-hearted and wholesome, him protecting and, like, defending his friend's honor. But the highlight of this mission, in this chapter, in general, is Baby Yuffie. She fights Zack off. She's defending Wutai! And he falls over. Oh, you got me. Oh. That's good. That's good. We learn right away that not only is Zack like good with kids, we'll get to more of that later, but that he, I don't know, it's very sweet and wholesome of him to like play with a kid like that, you know? Chapter 2. We're not monsters. A month has passed and no word from Genesis or Angeal. So Lazard is like, okay, we need to figure the situation out. It's getting worse. We lost 2 of our first-class soldiers. We only have 1 left, and that's Sephi. So this chapter is very important to me because in this chapter we get introduced to Sung, underrated hottie, if I do say so myself. He's part of this group called the Turks. You can tell who they are because they all wear like black suits and look pretty sharp. Well, except maybe Reno, because that boy always looks half-dressed, but that's besides the point. The Turks are basically like Shinna's CIA FBI group. They clean up the messes and keep things hush-hush when Shinna does bad things, which unfortunately is all of the time. They're literally the worst. Zack and Sung go to Banora, which is Genesis and Angeal's hometown that we learned from last time. We see some Banora apple trees, and then we find out that Angeal's rich friend was Genesis all along. We learn that Genesis's genes can not only be cloned, but they can be like put onto other monsters and even other soldier members, which basically means that you can be like morphed into looking like Genesis, which is kind of weird. Zack goes around town and he meets Angeal's mom, who hilariously asks, "Are you Zack, the puppy?" I still can't believe she just dead ass asks him that to his face. Like, this woman knows what's up. She lets Zack know that Genesis came by and like killed a lot of people. Also, Angeal came by to visit her and left his sword there, and we learned that that Buster Sword came from Angeal's dad. Zack meets up again with Tseng, and Tseng's like, so Genesis killed his parents, I found their bodies. He's also like, by the way, Sephi refused to go on this mission because Angeal and Genesis are his only friends, and he didn't want to have to fight them. So basically, like, he's counting on you, Zack, to like bring them back safe, because Sephi knows that Zack and Angeal are close. Then we finally meet the real, not copy, the real Genesis Rapsodos, who has another unbelievably Squeenix name. He's modeled after the Japanese singer Gact, just FYI. He was my childhood crush, I will admit. He also is in everything during this like early 2000s period of time. He was in everything. Genesis is obsessed with the play Loveless, and he is always quoting it like he is a big fanboy. And basically, the relationship between Zack and Genesis is Zack gets irritated and just tells Genesis, like, shut up, while Genesis just smiles and keeps repeating these quotes, saying these lines from different acts of Loveless. Genesis attacks Zack, and guess who jumps in to save the day? Big bro Angeal. But then everyone bails because Bonora is about to be blown to smithereens. There is also an insane minigame where you use your sword and you like smash missiles that are coming in like baseball. Since the town is gonna be bombed, Zack runs back over to Angeal's house to evacuate his mom, but when he arrives, the mom is already dead. And Angeal is also there with his sword out. And Zack just loses it. He's like, what did you do, Angeal? Punches him in the face. What about honor? And Zack's like, what's going on? A line he will continually say throughout this entire game. And not because he's a himbo, like, I mean, he does have himbo vibes, but that's not the reason why. It's because a ton of this plot happens separate from Zack, like it's going on behind the scenes, so he kind of finds out after things happen. Like, lots of other people are planning and deciding things that inherently affect Zack because it involves the people that he loves. So in some ways, like, his caring of other people traps him in kind of bad situations. It's so sad. He's such a good boy. Anyway, Genesis summons a boss. We gotta fight. The memories of Angeal during that fight feel really different than when we were doing it on the mission and he was like next to us. It's those are effective. They make you feel stuff. Then in the end, Genesis reveals that he has one big black, like, angel wing, saying, "We are monsters without dreams or honor." And Zack's like, soldier doesn't mean monster. He watches the town get exploded while Tseng brings the helicopter and they get the heck out of there. Chapter 3. Angel's Dream of One Thing. So Zack finally gets promoted to first class soldier, but he doesn't feel happy as he thought he would be. There's too much going on and Jill's not here. It's just not the same. Lazard says that Shinra basically doesn't trust Zack to do missions now because they want to kill Genesis and Jill. Like, they just want to get rid of this problematic situation. And they know that Zack has feelings for Angeal, so they're like, you're not going to do the job. So we're going to bring Sephi with you, which, don't they know that Sephi's best friends are Genesis and Angeal? I don't understand, whatever. Maybe it's just because he's a first-class soldier, they're just like, look, we got nobody else. I don't know. It doesn't matter now, because the Shinra building is currently under attack. But this time, it's not Genesis clones. It's Shinra weapons. And Sephi explains that it must be Hollander's doing. Who is Hollander? He's an ex-Shinra scientist and he is wet garbage and I do not like this man. He knows how to clone, he's out there wearing flip-flops, he wants revenge. He's also Mr. Petty because the reason he wants revenge is he wasn't voted like #1 top scientist and he's like, fine, then I quit and I'm gonna steal all this information and get revenge on you. Like, come on, how old are you? Too much of this game revolves around Hollander. Anyway, we'll get back to him. We meet more Turks, which is always fun. We get to see Reno and Rude, who honestly are not that important to this game. They're just fun, we like them. More importantly to Crisis Core is Cissnei, who's a DMW link, so you know she's important. Cissnei and Zack spread out around through the town to go fighting and saving people. And when it's over, Cissnei mentions that when she was little, she wanted to have wings, like an angel. And then Zack's like, people with wings are monsters. But Cissnei's like, nah, that's not true. It symbolizes freedom to people who don't have any freedom. Then Zack gets a call from Sephi, and Sephi's like, yo, we gotta go. the Shinra army is mobilizing, they found Angeal. And then Zack is like not even hearing him out. He's like, Zack starts to get worried and he's like, what are you gonna do when you find Angeal? Huh? What are you gonna do? And like starts getting really agitated. And then Sephi's like, oh, this freaking boy. And he's like, listen, we're gonna go and we're gonna go fail to neutralize them. You understand? And then Zack's like mood changes drastically and he's like, awesome, we're gonna fail. Sephi and Zack meet up and then Zack fights this really grody looking monster that has the Angeal's face like that on it. Sephi is like, wow, I guess Genesis is the only one getting cloned around here. Sephi also reminisces about his past with Angeal and Genesis, and we have like this very epic looking cutscene of them fighting. This chapter to me stands out though because it has some seriously good bonding between Sephi and Zack. And like these two, their personalities do not like mesh really well. They have no chemistry with each other really at all. And I feel like in a regular situation they would never become friends. But because Sephi and Zack both care about Angeal, that's how they bond. I really like that. It was like very heartwarming kind of feeling. I think this game does a really good job of humanizing Sephi. I wanted more, but we'll get to that. But I think they do a good job, because when you enter this game without playing this game before, you have a very different idea of who Sephiroth is than the image that we get in this game. Sephi and Zack find documents in Hollander's like makeshift little hidey hole zone. And Zack is like, reading. Oh my god, it's like so hard. He gets tired, he doesn't want to read. So Sephi basically has to explain the documents to Zack, which I think is kind of funny. Basically, Soldier Type G degrade over time, and that Type G experiment was fused with ancient genes, with humans. But it only resulted in a regular human with no special abilities, so it was considered a failure. And that failure baby was Genesis. Then Hollander comes back to his home and he's like, oh, you want to hurt me so bad? Oh, you're so mad. Oh, you want to hurt me. But guess what, bitch? If you kill me, then who's going to stop the degradation process? What, you want Angeal and Genesis to just die? He's the worst. He's the freaking worst. He's so annoying. Anyway, Genesis swoops in and he's talking with Sephi while Zack is like, Hollander, don't go! Because Hollander is good at running away. You will see. You will see. I'm not going to get too much into this either, but just know that at this point in the game and from this point on, the game really likes to highlight, especially Genesis, likes to highlight that the three friends that are in the play Loveless are mirroring the three friends, Genesis, Angeal, and Sephi. And Genesis is kind of using this fictional play as like how things are maybe going to plan out in the future with his actual friends. We also learned that Genesis is the jealous type. Genesis feels that the hero role should have been mine instead of Sephi's. We'll get into more of that later, but just remember, he said it, that's what he said. And Sephi rightfully calls him petty for it. It's true, it's true. I don't like Genesis, okay? I know my bias is showing, but he is the bad friend and I am not about it. So a fun side thing in this chapter while Zack is chasing Hollander, because it's a very long segment, so just have that playing in the background while I mention these fun things. We get a change in the menu, because now Zack is first class soldier, so he goes from like a different color suits to this black. It's basically the same uniform, don't worry about it, but he looks different. We also get this little side mission with the Treasure Princess. When he gets the email, Zack puts it in the spam folder, which I think is funny. But this Treasure Princess is actually Yuffie, back at it again. And basically, you go on these missions, Zack beats up a thing, and then he finds the treasure. Yuffie goes like, zoom, zoom, zoom! And she takes the treasure, and then she bails, and Zack's like, dang it, I was duped by children yet again! And listen, there's nothing I love more than seeing grown-ass Zack get duped by like 5, 6, 7-year-olds. It is hilarious. I love it. Okay, finally, Zack catches up to Hollander after way too long, like way too long. This boy let this man escape so many times. But Angeal appears and he's like, nah man, I can't let you do anything to Hollander. And Zack's like, okay, but like, why are you on this guy's side? Like, come on, Angeal. And Angeal's like, for revenge. And he shows him that he has a wing too. It's kind of like a butterfly wing, like he has one angel wing, but then he's got like a little smaller one here, you know? Angeal is clearly like not like when Genesis is like, oh, we're monsters without honor. Like he likes the dramatics, at least in my personal opinion. He's more about the dramatics. But you can tell Angeal is like really feeling down on himself, and he's like, yeah, I'm a monster now. Ooh. Like he's sad about it. And then Zack is so pure. He's like, no, you're not a monster. These are angel wings. Which you know he stole from Sisney, but I don't care. I love it. I love it. It's like such a pure, sweet thing to say about your friend when your friend is feeling down. But Angeal is like not really having it. He's like, okay, then what should an angel fight for? What do angels dream of? All they dream about is one thing, to be human. Now he's like mad. He punches Zack like really hard. It looks very painful. But Zack is like, I'm not fighting you, bro. I'm not gonna fight you. And Angeal's like, fine. And then he blasts him with this attack, and Zack falls down through the floor and into the abyss. Chapter 4. Where did everyone go? Xaereth shippers, this is your moment. This is your chapter. This is where you feast. Hello? A lovely lady wakes Zack up. He fell down into the slums and right into this church. He thinks this woman is an angel. Chemistry ensues. This is Aerith, an extremely important character. Zack pulls his famous line about needing to repay Aerith, so how about a date? Which is honestly just the tomfoolery of this boy. Aerith scolds him for almost stepping on the flowers. He's like, there's this like big section that has all these beautiful lilies. But you know, like Zack's like a reckless little pepperoni. He doesn't even think about it. He's gonna step on those flowers or whatever. And then he gives Aerith the idea of like, what if you sell these flowers, you know? You're tending to them in the church, but like nobody knows they're here. Like, you should spread the love, you know? Sell and then you can make money. Zack goes to leave, and then Aerith is basically like point blank is like, I want to spend more time with you. So they go off together, kind of on a date. But oh my god, this chapter is just so good. It's so good. Their love story is so simple and clean as the way that you're making me feel tonight. And I really think that these two work well together because they're both very like easy breezy beautiful people. They're very authentic souls who like see the good in everybody, but they're also very playful, and they're playful with each other, which is just so wonderful to see. It's really cute. Monsters come by while they're walking the slums, and Zack is like so ready to show off. Oh my god. And Aerith's like, wow, Zack, you're like so strong. And he's like, yeah, strong. Like a monster, right? The despair is seeping through the cracks on my boy. It's actually really sad. Zack says it's stuffy in the slums because you can't see the sky, and then Aerith admits that she's not normal because she's like actually scared of the sky, which is kind of a specific fear. And Zack's like, it's okay, one day you're gonna see a beautiful sky, we'll be together, you'll see it. Then Zack gets mugged by this kid named Bruno, and this starts off a whole side quest of catching him. And in this process, he gets duped by like every child in the slums. It's so good, it's so good. We find out that Bruno stole the wallet because his own wallet got eaten by a monster and he needs medicine for his grandpa. So Zack obviously goes out and gets the wallet back for the boy. He also tells the kid, like, hey, you won't need to steal anymore because me and Aerith, we're gonna get rich by selling flowers. And then he's like, oh, we should build a wagon. Zack and Aerith kind of go a little shopping around the market area. We can mix perfume to give Aerith as a gift, which is very fun. I liked it. Zack also buys Aerith her signature little pink bowl, which is cute. And then they go on like a more official date in the park. Aerith asks Zack if he's met any soldier people before and mentions that they have to get some kind of special surgery, so she wonders, like, are they happy not being normal? And then Aerith admits that she thinks being normal is best. She thinks that the soldier people are kind of scary because they like to fight, and that's kind of like a weird thing, which I kind of agree with her. So if you love to fight, it's like, what's going on? Are you okay? And Zack admits to her, like, hey, guess what? I'm soldier, so... It's an awkward situation, but I really like that Zack was just forthcoming with her. I feel like, I don't know, a lot of people would have played it off or done something differently, so we'd love to see that kind of transparency. And then Aerith is like, she says, like, oh, it's pretty, or, you know. And then Zack is like, the face. Can you imagine if somebody said this to you? Can you... I don't know what I would just be deceased on the spot. And Aerith is like, no, the eyes. And this leads to a very iconic scene, okay? Zack's like, then take a closer look. Eyes infused with Mako energy, the color of the sky. And then Aerith's like, yeah, but it's not scary. they're like gazing into each other's eyes, and then Aerith is like, oh, you, and gets all shy. It's just peak perfection. It's so good. Like, that kind of energy is what all good romances have. So good job, Square Enix. 10 out of 10. You really did the thing. At least for me, they really sell it well that these two are like fated to be together, because this could have felt so corny and so dumb because they met that day. So when you're having this kind of it's not rushed, but like you're building something that has to happen really quickly, it's really easy to make that feel gimmicky but they didn't. It's very subtle, it's very natural, it's very charming. They did it. Zack gets a call and then he has to leave, and Aerith's like, will I see you again? And he's like, yeah. She also says that, like, I hope your friend's gonna be okay, or, you know, whatever. And Zack's like, well, how did you know about that? And she's like, oh, you talk in your sleep. And Zack has to go because Genesis attacked. Of course, always a problem. And as Zack is heading back, he meets Angeal. And Angeal's like, yo, I need your help. And he's like, fine, okay, what do you need help with? And he's like, you'll see. And then he grabs him around the middle, and then they just fly off. They go up to a really high floor in the Shinra building where they meet Sephi. And Angeal is like, you looking thin, Sephi. And like, okay, I know this is not a like super important line or whatever, but to me, it speaks volumes. To me, it communicates that like Sephi is not doing well. Like his physical health is sort of deteriorating because of the stress of, you know, his two friends defecting and what's going on. Like, there's a lot. I think it was like a really simple but effective way for the audience to see that, I don't know, Sephi's not doing as well. It's also really sad. Anyway, Hollander has ordered Genesis to kill Hojo again because he's the pettiest human. So in a terribly gross turn of events, we go from like hanging out with the best person, Aerith, to literally the worst person, Hojo. I think I don't like Hojo more than I like Hojo is the worst, and then Hollander's over here. Like, it's bad. Hojo mentions that the cells that were used in Project G were actually not from an ancient, but from the celestial calamity Genova. Zack is like, what the heck are you talking about? And Hojo's like, okay, soldiers are all himbos, just don't talk, don't speak to me, just stand in the corner, look pretty, and protect me. So, I mean, it's really annoying. He's so annoying. Then, of course, Genesis shows up, he's pointing his sword at Hojo, which, understandable feelings. And then Angeal shows up and is like, okay, don't do that, Genesis. And then Hojo is like, ooh, all of Hollander's freak show showed up today. And Zack is like, shut up! Genesis begins quoting Loveless, as he do, and then he summons another boss for us. And then Angeal basically ditches us. He's like, you could do it. Trust me. He just drops us, he plops us down, and then he goes and fights Genesis while we deal with this monster. And then once the boss battle is over, then no one is there, and Zack's all alone. Chapter 5. Don't throw away your soldier honor. So Zack is feeling a lonely boy this chapter. He's trying to get in touch with Sephi, but Sephi like cannot be bothered to take up a phone call. He is really busy researching the Shinra Science Department. Then Aerith calls and she's like, flower cart? And he's like, okay. So then he goes over to the church, but on his way, Angeal shows up and Zack's like, excuse me, where have you been? I've been so lonely. And Angeal says, Genesis and Hollander were spotted in Modeoheim, so just FYI, I told Lazard he's gonna come pick you up, so like, you're gonna go. And I'm like, excuse me, we have a flower cart to make, I do not care. Dates are more important than all of this shenanigans, okay? So Zack heads over to the church, and then Sung is like, hey, Aerith's not there. And he's like, what? How do you know? Because Zack doesn't know that Sung and Aerith know each other, and he asks like, how do you know her? And Sung's like, it's complicated, which makes it even more sus. Like, that doesn't help anything. And then Sung asks, like, has Aerith told you anything? And Zack's like, no. And then he's like, okay, then I guess I'm not gonna say anything either. I don't know. I mean, I know more of what all of that was going on because I played 7, but if you didn't play 7 at all, and you were just coming into this completely fresh, I feel like it sounds like they dated or something, or they had some kind of involvement. You know what I mean? At least that's what it seemed like to me. Anyway, Zack is understandably bummed. I am bummed as well. No time to play with Aerith. And then somewhere on this helicopter ride over to Modeoheim, during a black screen, you just hear like all this chaos, and then it just pans into Zach on the floor, the helicopter in flames. It's like, what the heck happened here? So they're in the snowy middle of nowhere zone. They gotta walk over to Modeoheim because they didn't make it all the way there. And Sung is like, well, at least we got this country boy Zach to help us out. And it's like, you don't know this yet, but like Zach grew up in a very tropical looking area, so it's like, how is this transferable skills? Just because he grew up in like more the middle of nowhere, it doesn't mean it's the same as snowy tundra, but whatever. And this kind of conversation leads to Zach bonding with this other country boy. I don't know, some guy named Cloud Strife? Listen, Cloud in this game is so baby. He's so baby. He's so young. He's so like bright-eyed. He looks so different than he does in 7, you know. Zach started this game as a little puppy, while Cloud is just a little kitten, newly born, so pure. And Zach and Cloud have instant chemistry. It is really cute to see. The boys are bonding. And listen, their cutscene of them meeting is multi-layered iconic. The taking off the helmet to reveal it's Cloud under there, iconic. Me? Going gaga. Iconic. Maybe the most iconic thing in this game. And like as a side note, as they're going over to Modeoheim, seeing Sung all the way back while like Cloud and Zach are keeping up, and Sung is all the way in the back. It's so moe to me. I think it's so cute. So then we kind of arrive at this little area. We have to do some solid snaking with this recon mission, which I had a really bad time with. I was so bad at it. And then you got to do squats because, of course, Zach, to keep your body temperature up because for some reason this soldier first class has like, you have arms out. I don't get it, but whatever. We finally make our way into the building and we see Genesis pointing a sword at Hollander, and Hollander's like, yo, you need me, bro. You're degrading, remember? Zach jumps in, and then Cloud catches Hollander as he's trying to run away, because of course he is. But Cloud is a baby, so he can't really keep him held, so he fails, but he tried, okay? And then Hollander uses Zach as a shield, and is like, listen, I know you want to know where the Jenova cells are, but no one even knows where they are, not even Hojo, okay? You're never gonna find them! And then Genesis pulls a full-on tantrum, like, fine, I'll accept my degradation, but I'm taking the world with me. Like, oh my god, you're so edgelord. Cloud runs after Hollander as he's trying to escape, yet again, and then Zach and Genesis actually fight. And obviously we defeat Genesis, and then he like falls from this really high place, okay? When Zach leaves the building, Sung and Cloud are both gone. So Zach's like kind of exploring the area, trying to find them, and he finds them in an abandoned bathhouse, but they're like messed up, like they got beat up. And Sung tells Zach like, hey, Hollander's up ahead with Angeal, and Angeal's waiting for you. And then when Zach meets Angeal, he's like ready to fight. Like he is ready to fight Zach. And Zach doesn't want to fight him, but Angeal's like, there's somebody waiting for you, no? So it kind of forces Zach to fight, like he just can't let himself be murdered, you know? And then Hollander comes in and he says, it's time to exact vengeance on our family's suffering. And Angeal's like, no, my father is dead! Girl, is Angeal's dad Hollander? Because that's rough. And it's also rough for me, because if that's true, then that means the Buster Sword came from freaking Hollander. That doesn't line up with my fantasy, okay? Like, I hate that. I mean, it's possible that he's like an uncle or some other kind of relative, but I don't know. The way this was delivered, it really made it seem like that Hollander is his dad. Anyway, Hollander's like, okay, fine, then do it for your mom. And Angeal's like, my mother's shame made her take her own life. And then Zach's like, oh my god, I misinterpreted that situation. I thought Angeal killed his mom, but that wasn't what happened. And then Hollander's like, no, she should have been proud because the name of the project was Project G for Jillian, not Genesis, for Jillian. Okay, so I'm gonna break down Project G for you real quick. So Angeal's mom, Jillian, had Jenova cells implanted into her, okay? And then Genesis had her genes, Jillian's genes, mapped onto him when he was in the fetal stage. But Angeal was born from Jillian herself, so there's no gene mapping going on. And that means Jenova's power was passed on to Angeal completely. Genesis is the failed baby or whatever, so Hollander calls Angeal like the perfect one, like he's the success. And because Angeal's feeling down, he's like, I am perfect. A perfect monster! And Angeal's in kind of self-loathing mode. I don't mean to make fun of him. It would be a horrendous thing to learn. Frankly, for Genesis as well, like, it feels bad for him too. These boys are in a bad situation. Angeal summons all these monsters, and, like, Zack's ready to fight them, but then the monsters, like, come into Angeal, and then he fuses with them, and this thing, Hollander flees yet again, and we fight and defeat Angeal. And Zack gets his signature scar here from that fight. Angeal thanks Zack and then gives him the Buster Sword and tells him, you need to protect your honor. And Zack holds the sword to cover his face and he cries. We get this passage of time cutscene where Zack goes to Aerith but is still really, really down. He's still in that grieving process for sure. And Aerith comforts our boy. It's very sweet. And then later he goes and gives this inspirational speech to the rookies that all the NPCs like continually mail us about. Like, oh my god, it was so great. He takes this Buster Sword that he inherited from Angeal and points it to the sky. And he tells them, embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your soldier honor. This chapter really marks a huge turning point for Zack, honestly. Like, his vibes are never the same after this point. Because Zack goes from, like, boy to man in this transition, like, pretty hardcore. He looks so much more mature now. He is definitely not that puppy boy that we saw in the beginning. He also grows his hair out now, so it's kind of like this mullet thing going on. Look, I don't want to talk about it, okay? Chapter 6. Did Genesis really die? Okay, this is actually a really short chapter, so it starts by Zack giving us this, like, exposition of what's been going on. So, Zack caught Hollander, he turned him into Shinna. Shinna, in general, is just a total disarray mess right now. The Turks have been hanging out with Zack, but Zack knows that it's not just a coincidence, like, they're kind of monitoring him. And that Zack has been put on hold from all missions. And you know how restless our boy gets when he doesn't have missions to go on. He's just constantly squatting over there. Nobody mentions Angeal or Genesis at all, and that makes Zack really sad, because it's like, wow, they didn't even exist. Is that how little Soldier is worth? What do I have left to fight for? What is Soldier honor? So things haven't been going so great for our boy. Then we cut to Costa del Sol for a beach vacation without any of the fun. Like, there's no fun. There's no fun on this beach vacation. No water guns, no surfing, no splashing around, nothing. It's just Zack over there doing anxiety squats, being like, what's going on? Did they put me out to pasture? I'm so bored. Cissnei is also there. She was wearing a bathing suit too, so we get Zack and Cissnei in bathing suits. Zack wants to call Lazard up, and Cissnei's like, oh, you haven't heard? Lazard's gone missing. Apparently he was funding Hollander's research using their company money, so he's in trouble now. And Zack's like, ugh, I'm just so tired of people acting out. Sheesh, I've had it. Which I think is valid for him feeling this way, honestly. Like, everyone Zack gets close to ends up betraying Shinna, or there's some kind of weirdness going on, so things are just really chaotic, and they seem to just keep becoming more chaotic. Then he tells Cissnei, go do something. Cissnei, go do something. And Cissnei is like, oh, you're gonna call Aerith, right? And he's like, how did you know? Am I being watched? And then Cissnei's like, nah, it's not you being watched. Aerith's the one being watched. And she tells Zack that Aerith is the only ancient left on the planet. And Zack's like, I didn't know. She's one of a kind. Which is cute and corny, I like it. Then Tseng, who is not in a bathing suit, might I add. We were robbed. He's like in his full suit being like, hey, heads up, Genesis clones are here. And then Zack fights off all the Genesis copies with an umbrella, like a big beach umbrella. This game proves to you that there might be heavy times, but it is not beyond wilding out, you know? And then after the conflict is resolved, Tseng is like, so Genesis might still be around, like he might not actually be dead. When the soul leaves the body, it returns to the life stream. A river of souls circle the planet, so Genesis' soul might be still able to like control the copies from out there. Then vacation's over, Junon is under attack, so we have to go over there. And we fight way too many Genesis copies over there, let me tell you, there's a lot of fighting over there. And then we find out that Hollander is in Junon and being held there, and then he escaped because of course he did. So guess who we're chasing down yet again? But one nice thing is we get to see Cloud again. But the baby is extremely baby because he got airsick on the helicopter. So he's suffering right now. But Zack goes over and is very, very sweet to him. Because, man, his supervisor is not having it. His Cloud supervisor is like this freaking kid. We also see Sephi at the end of this chapter, and Zack is kind of prickly because it's been so long and he's been so lonely. And then Sephi is like, did Genesis really die? And Zack does one of the cutest, most moy little things. Like, he's trying to say something to Sephi, but he's like, And then Sephi smiles and he's like, we'll meet again. Take care, my dude. And then Zack's like, I'm holding you to it. It's cute. And then at the end of the chapter, we see Genesis very much alive, quoting Loveless as he do. But something important that happens during this chapter is our conversation with Cissnei. So like during all the Genesis fighting, we like take a little break, we meet her up on this like kind of deserted area. She mentions her lonely past and how the Turks kind of helped make her feel like she's part of somewhere that cares about her, all sorts of stuff. That's great. Getting Cissnei backstory is great. But she tells Zack that he has fans, which leads to a critical side quest in this game, the Fan Club Side Quest. So there are 4 official fan clubs in Crisis Core, and each focuses around a first-class soldier. They all got problems they need help with, and they also all have extremely good mail based on who the fan club is about. First up is Angeal's group, the Keepers of Honor. And this group is a little crazy. So a member of this fan club has literally abandoned her child in order to go look for Angeal, a man who doesn't even know she exists. Okay, listen, we've all had a parasocial relationship, okay? It happens. But it's the kind of thing where I feel like it's important for you to check yourself and like remind yourself this is a parasocial relationship and not delude yourself into some kind of fantasy. This woman did the opposite of that. And the saddest part of this mission, honestly, is when you talk some sense into her, she goes back to her kid, and the kid is like, I'm gonna help out with the fan club, that way I can spend more time with my mom. And it's like, oh my god, your mom is basically like saying that she loves Angeal more than she loves you. She wants to spend more time in the fan club than with her own child. It just felt bad. It felt so bad, man. But the fan club mail, thankfully, is very light and very heartwarming. We learn that he's basically like waifu material. He like knows how to cook and does leftovers. He's a plant person. Just like me, he talks to his plants. But the real kicker is his favorite hobby is listed as doting over dogs, and that the bigger the hassle the dog is, the cuter the dog. Man, I feel like this one piece of mail fed the Angeal Zack shippers for the end of time. Like, puppies are the biggest hassle, so that means he's the cutest? I mean, he is the cutest, but you know what I mean? Next up are the 2 Genesis groups, Red Leather and the Study group. It has kind of a lame name. Why does he get 2? Well, one is a rich group and one is a poor group, and basically Zack has to help reunite them to be like one big group. He also helps them not be so antagonistic. They've had like beef in the past, but I think the fact that the Genesis fangirls have like the most infighting and like petty goofiness is just like, of course, it's gonna be his group. Toxicity breeds toxicity. And the kicker is, this is the only one that I did in my playthrough. I only solved the Genesis fangirl stuff, which is just ironic and terrible. And the fan club mail that we receive from these 2 groups is exceptionally bad vibes. They have the most cult-like vibe out of them all, unsurprisingly. They say problematic things like Genesis can never do wrong, which is a big yikes. And they're also like trying to make money from their group, being like, buy this special Loveless edition! Or like they took Genesis notes and like made their own book about it and they're like selling it for money. Buy Benora Apple jewelry! It's like, oh my god, it's the opposite of wholesome, it's terrible. Sephi's group is called Silver Elite. And they did not come here to play. You gotta take this quiz to join them because they don't want fake fans. They don't want posers. But honestly, that's really it. They don't have problems. Like, the Sephi fangirls have their shit together. They don't need outside help. And this fan club mail. Oh my god. We get an extremely detailed hair care regimen from one of the males. It's hilarious. So apparently, the way Sephi keeps his luscious locks beautiful is he uses an entire bottle of shampoo and an entire bottle of conditioner every time he washes his damn hair. And listen, I'm not trying to call the writers out, but I'm just saying whoever wrote this scene did not have hair. Did not have long hair, because that's not how hair works. If you use an entire bottle of conditioner on your hair would be so oily. It's not like he's like Rapunzel and has like hair that's like 6 feet long. Okay, maybe I could buy that, maybe. Like, his hair isn't that long. What are you doing? His hair would not flow like that. It would be greasy, heavy. No. There's mail that details how in the past, Angeal, Sephi, and Genesis like would take turns, and like one would put an apple on his head, and then the other two would try to pierce it, and it's just like, okay. It's also rumored that the head of this fan club is Chairwoman H, and I've heard that the H is supposed to stand for Hojo, and it's disgusting. I hate it. I hate it. And finally, the best one is the Zack Fair fan club. It doesn't have a cute name. It doesn't get to have a cute name. It should have a cute name. It's highly disappointing it doesn't have a cute name. It should be called something like the Bestest Boy Squad, or Puppy Love, or Himbo Stan. I don't know, literally anything would be better than the Zack Fair fan club. And this one is affected by how much you help the other groups. The mail is also very good from this fan club. We start with Zack being the 12th member of his own fan club. And his quote is, "I want to join Soldier and fly all over the world. I'm gonna make friends everywhere I go. Then I'm gonna swim to each place where they live." And I don't know how old he was supposed to be when he said it, but I love that it's feasible that he would have said that yesterday and it still holds up. Like, so there's a member called Black Suit, and it is most likely Cisne. But my headcanon is Sung, and you can't stop me. Anyway, this member leaks info about what went down on the beach. They also mention that Zack is very sweet and naive when it comes to romance, and that just gives me life. Then you get one final mail depending on your score. And I got the worst one because I only helped the Genesis fan club, so my Zack Fair fan club only had 1,024 members, which is still, it's not bad, you know? But there's a medium level one where the fan club has 51,000 members, and there's a quote from Black Suit. And I think this quote makes it clear it's Cisne, because she's talking about wings, you know? And the best one that you can get is if you help everybody, you solve all the problems, then you get over 100,000 members. And a quote from Aerith being like, "My flower wagon broke, so I'm gonna use the basket. I hope you join me when your work is over." And it's very sweet. Okay, side quest intermission over. Let's get back to Chapter 7, I Might Abandon Shinna. So the chapter starts with Zack meeting Aerith at the church, but it's not fun and games. There is a monster, it is not good. And of course, Zack is like ready to go. He's ready to go hero mode. But Aerith's like, "No, don't do it." Because the monster is actually an Angeal copy. It has his little face. It's like a dog-bird hybrid. And then the Shinna weapon comes in and he like defends and attacks and takes it down to protect Aerith and Zack. But it's degrading because of course it is. So it kind of flies up and sits on the rafter and watches over Aerith, which is very sweet, very touching, yes. And then Zack wonders if Angeal is out there as well, because I mean, you know, the whole thing with Genesis, so why not Angeal? But then, Kunsel ruins the moment. He sends us this mail that is so creepy. The mail is entitled, "I See Everything." And honestly, this is where Kunsel loses me, okay? He was fine before. He's just a supportive friend, constantly mailing us, trying to keep us in the loop, trying to have, you know, the exposition for us. But this time, he does too much. He's like, "Even if you don't tell me anything, I know all about you, Zack." It's like, when did the boy become a stalker? He also tells Zack there's no use keeping secrets because I'll just find out anyway. It's like, boy, you need some boundaries. You need some boundaries. This is why you're not put in a friend folder. You're in a soldier folder for a reason. Anyway, when Zack leaves the church, there's more of the Shinna weapons and they're like attacking Zack now. Then Sung comes in and he's like, "Oh, they're these new like automated weapons, so they just go after any of like Genesis copies and stuff like that." And then Zack's like, "Yeah, but I'm not a monster and they attacked me." And Sung's like, "Yeah, they just can't like tell the difference yet." Then Zack is like, "Are you here to spy on Aerith again? Why are you always spying on her?" And then there's a little boy who comes up and he's like, "Are you gonna play with Aerith, mister?" And Sung's like, "Yeah, go play with your girlfriend." And Zack is ashamed, but he shouldn't be ashamed, okay? You need to spend time with your girlfriend. We're making a flower wagon. This is our future. And the rest of this chapter, I am like not kidding, is basically just a search quest for all the parts for the flower wagon, which is what I've been waiting for, honestly. We actually don't get to go around with Aerith, like she stays at the church and we walk around alone. And I think Bruno comes and like helps us with trying to figure out what pieces and stuff, but in my head they go around together, okay? So you can make different wagons based on the parts that you collect. And I goofed because I worked hard to get some of the pieces you get from like doing missions and stuff. I had like quite a few of them, but I didn't have all of them, and I ended up making the bad card. Okay, I felt really bad. I made the like crappy card. Aerith deserves better, but we'll get into Flower Wagon stuff in a little bit. Aerith tells Zack that she has 23 tiny wishes, and Zack's like, okay, well, write them down so I don't forget. It's very cute, it's very good, it's very lovely. Then Zack gets called away, and he has to go, and then he meets Sephi, and Sephi's like, so I'm going on this mission, but I might abandon Shinna, so just heads up. He also finds out that this mission's going to be far away, so Zack runs back and sees Aerith because he's like, I'm gonna have to go away for a bit. And Kunsel sort of redeemed himself because he does buy Zack a little time to do this. And this is where we actually get to sell flowers with Aerith. And this is also why I delayed the Flower Wagon thing, because depending on which Flower Wagon you make depends on how this scene goes. And also, if you don't like the outcome of the cart that you made, you can go back and make another wagon. I didn't know that! So there's a cheapo one that I made. And basically what happens is we're like desperately trying to sell the flowers. No one is interested, but because Zack is Zack, Aerith has a good time. There is a cool metal one that I personally can't stand. I hate the way it looks, but Zack is like super happy with it. He's like so impressed he made something so cool, so fine, whatever, I'm happy too. But then when you go and sell the flowers, everybody thinks it's a Shinna weapon, so shenanigans ensue. And the aforementioned cute one is the best one. It's super, super cutesy. Aerith is super happy with it because she has good taste. And because it's in this cute flower wagon, they're able to sell a lot of flowers, which is, it makes me so happy to see. And Zack tells a customer that that's their dream, that they're going to be selling all these flowers here, they're going to sell above, all sorts of stuff. And then Aerith also says again that she, she's still sort of scared of the sky. And Zack's like, it's okay, because I'll be with you when you go up there. And then after this next job, they're going to go do that together. And then while they're out doing this, doesn't matter which scene you get, while they're out, at some point, Zack will like break away from Aerith, and he sees Sung, who's obviously there watching. And Zack tells Sung, you're the only person I can rely on. You need to like protect Aerith. Then after too short of a time, we have to go back to headquarters. We see Cloud there, which is nice. It's good. He's gonna come with us on this mission. And then Sephi announces, we're headed to Nibelheim. Chapter 8. Got it. I'll come see you. AKA the chapter where everything goes to hell. Although I think if you played through the original Final Fantasy VII, you already knew this, but here we go. Okay, so the Nibelheim crew consists of Sephi, Zack, Cloud, and one other NPC, don't worry about him. The topic of Sephi's family, hometown, all that stuff comes up, and he's like, I don't have a hometown. And then he's like, my mom's name was Jenova. What am I even talking about? It's like, bro, someone asked you. Anyway, when he mentions that his mom's name was Jenova, he also mentions that she died shortly after he was born. And then Zack's like, Jenova? Where have I heard that before? Jenova? And then Tifa comes in her cowgirl era. You gotta love this outfit. You gotta love Tifa. It's so iconic. It's icon behavior. And the day starts off relatively normal, actually. Like, Tifa gives all of them, like, a tour of Nibelheim. Oh, and fun fact, Cloud does not take off his helmet. So you can't tell if he is Cloud or if he's the NPC who, and another infantry person. And he won't say why. So Zack's like, okay, whatever. And then Sephi and Zack go up into this top secret area while Cloud stays, like, in front to watch Tifa, make sure she's safe. Tifa really wanted to go in, but it's like, you can't. And then inside, there are all these, like, little pod thingies. They're kind of ominous, and they all have monsters inside. There's also stairs that are leading up to a big door that says Jenova. And then Sephi says that soldiers, like Zack, are Mako-infused humans. But they're just enhanced humans, they're still human. But the things that are in the pods are monsters that were created by Hojo. And Sephi calls them abominations spawned by Mako energy. And then Zack's like, okay, well, what about you, Sephs? Because you're not like a normal person. And then this kind of starts Sephi going down and having a little breakdown. Zack did not mean to cause this, but it's something that Sephi is clearly trying to grapple with and understand. And, like, it seems like he's really scared of the inevitability that's kind of laid out in front of him. That it's like, your two best friends were kind of born in weird circumstance ways, and you don't know anything about your background. What if you are like the monsters in the pod, kind of thing. And then who comes in? Genesis. He swoops in and is like, ding ding ding, correctamundo, you are a monster. Genesis attacks Zack, so he's like too weak to like really intervene in any physical way, aside from being like, stop, no! And then basically Genesis fills in Sephi about what happened in the past. Basically, Sephi was created from the Jenova Project. Sephi thought like, oh, I had like a mom who was a human, but that wasn't the case. That Jenova was excavated from the dirt, like a fossil, and was brought up and is a monster. So his mom is like a monster. And Genesis takes way too much pleasure in telling him this, in my personal opinion. And this is very clearly painful for Sephi to hear. Which, okay, having your mom actually not be human and be like this fossilized creature, that's not really relatable for, you know, regular people. But I think the idea of like idealizing a parent that maybe you've never met and having this idea of like, they must be like this. And then to find out that they're not only not like that, but they're actually not even human, or like this whole thing that you hoped wasn't true. I think that's relatable. And I feel like this moment is very good. I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad. But these moments, I wish there were more of them with Sephi, because they really humanize him. And like, I don't know, your heart goes out to this poor boy, you know? Okay, so after all of this, Genesis is being like, oh, you didn't know? Oh, poor Sephi. Thought he had a human mom. Well, you know, doing all of that shady stuff. Genesis has the gall, the nerve, the gumption to be like, haha, actually, I need your help, so you're gonna help me, right? Because, of course, he's degrading. He's looking all dusty and crusty. So, Jenova Project G gave birth to Angeal and monsters like me. Genesis, right? And Jenova Project S used the remains of all these failed experiments to create the perfect monster, you, Sephi. But unlike Angeal, Sephi's traits can't be copied onto others, so his body can't degrade. And that's why Genesis is like, give me those cells, give it to me. And like, I don't know, maybe Genesis was like, if I wear him down, I get him depressed, then he'll just do whatever I want as like a manipulation play. But I personally feel like this was stupid, because like, you were so shady and so mean and just proving that you're a terrible friend, that of course Sephi's gonna be like, screw you, man, I'm not gonna help you. I don't know, I just found like Sephi's reaction to be very relatable personally. So Sephi is like, okay, I don't know if all you said was a lie to deceive me, or it's the truth I've been looking for my entire life, but you will rot. We love an icon. Like, Sephi is on the verge of a mental breakdown, but he still had that like composure to be like, no, that's king behavior. And ironically, I feel like Genesis was surprised by this reaction, and it's like, okay, you know what? You just don't understand things, Genesis. Just go away. So Sephi and Genesis leave this building, and then Zack's like, okay, I'm feeling better, I'm gonna leave now. And then, oh god, as soon as we leave, Genesis clones. Cloud gets shot because the boy is trying his best, okay? He's protecting Tifa, and then Tifa's like, oh man, and she helps Cloud stand, and then we have to like fight monsters as we go back into town. But then when we get there, Sephi is like gone, and Tifa's like, what the heck happened in there? And Zack's like, I can't tell you, it's confidential. She's like, fine, I'll go find out where the heck Sephi went. Meanwhile, Zack takes Cloud into the inn, help him rest, and Cloud is like a very sad boy. He's like, man, this wouldn't have happened if I was Soldier. And then Zack is like very solemn, and he's like, Soldier is a den of monsters, don't go inside. And like, I get why Zack is feeling down. There's a lot going on here. It's like you find out all of your friends have had experiments on them, and it's just it's rough for everyone involved in this. Zack asks about Tifa, like, what's going on there? And Cloud goes full like, it's kind of cute, Full glower in the corner, it's cute. And then Zack's like, I'm sensing some issues here, which I think is hilarious. Like, yeah, duh. But he's like, shouldn't you do something, Cloud? And Cloud's like, And then Zack's like, well, I guess I'm one to talk. I'm Soldier, I just get told what to do. It makes no difference to me who's the enemy or what's going on. And then he like starts crying, it's really sad. He put the sword to his face because he doesn't know what to do. And then Cloud, not reading the room at all, no reading the room, is like, bro, that sword is so cool. And this helps ground Zack in remembering that the sword is a symbol of his dreams and honor, but it's more than just that. And that like kind of gives him a little pep talk, I guess, in his own mind. And then Zack's like, cool, okay, good night. And Cloud's like, what the heck happened? Because, you know, the mood change was drastic. Cloud and Tifa both send some really, really cute mail in this chapter, I'll tell you what. I think it's to offset some of the drama of what's to come, but I appreciate it nonetheless. So Cloud says that Zack gives him the courage to stay strong. And he mentions that going home is like really uncomfortable for him if he's alone, so he wants Zack to go with him. And so he wants Zack to eat his mom's cooking. It's like, oh my god, it's so cute. It's so cute. And then Tifa texts being like, how's that injured guy doing? And then she mentions that any girl would want a blonde soldier to come to her rescue. But that it's no use waiting for her blonde knight in shining armor to come rescue her. And that's why she's got to learn how to fight. And that she's kind of like a natural at it. I love everything about that text. I love every word, every syllable of that text is so important to me. Also, Kunzel is kind of back to his normal shenanigans. He stopped doing all the creepy stuff. He did say that he went over and like checked up on Aerith, made sure she was okay, which I thought was kind of nice. The next day, Tifa is like, yo, Sephi is at the Shinna Manor, so you should go over there. And then Zack goes over there. But on his way there, we get a call from Aerith, and he's like, oh, it's fine, I'll come see you. Referencing that chapter title, because you know we gotta do that. We go down this underground basement area, which is very ooky spooky. We see Sephi like researching like crazy in this library, trying to learn the truth for himself. In this cutscene, he explains that Jenova was classified as an ancient, excavated from the earth, and there's this pretty powerful scene of Zack just like finding Sephi in this kind of dark, very lonely library, and there's nothing you can do. It feels so helpless, you just have to like turn around and leave. It's sad, but it's very powerful. Then Zack gives us an exposition on like, you know, he's just down there, the lights never went out once, he's just researching and researching, and he apparently did this for a week straight, no break, and then on the 7th day, we leave the inn and everything's on fire. And then we see that iconic cutscene of Sephi surrounded by flames, and he just looks up. And this cutscene marks the no going back to the old normal boy Sephi that we once knew. Like, he's kind of not in the same mindset that he once was. Now he's in like a different plane of existence. I also think that like Sephi had to face a very painful truth that kind of put him in hell. So to have this like hellish imagery around him as we like meet up with him after this week of not seeing him, I don't know, I like it. I like that kind of stuff. It's more powerful than just seeing like the cutscene on its own without having that backstory, so I appreciate those details. And of course Cloud is injured again because the boy is trying his best. Zack feels rightly betrayed because he's like, come on man, I thought we were friends and now you too? We go back to that top secret room with all the pods, and then we find Tifa injured on the floor, and Zack like goes to help her, and Tifa's like, don't touch me. I don't want to deal with any of you. You, Sephi, I hate first class soldier, I hate soldier. I hate all of you. Zack is just 1000% done with this day. He like busts the Jenova door down and he sees Sephi talking to Jenova. And Jenova is like this, look kind of like a person, torso up, but not moving, not responsive. And it's in a big test tube thingy. He says that he had an epiphany and that he wants to take the world back together with his mom. And honestly, this is just really sad. It's like Sephi wanted to have a mom figure so bad, and he just did not have one, and it just, I don't know, the poor boy. Zack stops him and puts the sharp edge of the sword, like he turned the sword, face that way, so you know he means business. And they fight. It's a hard battle, as to be expected, because you think Sephi's fight is gonna be easy. No, it was hard, I struggle. And then basically Sephi's like, I'm the chosen one, and flings Zack, and the Buster Sword goes flying in the air, and Zack falls down the stairs in the front, and he's just like out, like he can't fight anymore. And then Sephi goes back to like talk to Jenova in the test tube, but guess who arrives? It's Cloud. He takes the Buster Sword and stabs Sephi right through, and it goes through and it breaks the test tube that Jenova's in. Like, he really stabbed him. And then Cloud goes and checks up on Tifa, who's unconscious at this point. And then Sephi comes out of that room, because of course he's still alive, and he's holding Jenova, and he goes, how dare you? With so much contempt. Look, I'm just saying, like, almost everything Sephi does is so iconic. Like, that moment is so iconic to me. And I really like this voice actor. Like, I don't mean, like, I mean iconic in that it's just perfect. Not like it's overacted. No, it's fantastic. And then Zack is like, Cloud, finish Sephi off. You gotta do it, man. So Cloud's like, Sephiroth! And he scream and he run up the stair. And then they go, you know, like this. Everybody loves a scene of two swords. You know, they're staring at each other. Because now they both hate each other. And it's, you know, this is the start of Cloud's whole life with Sephi. You know what I'm saying? They fight a little bit. Then Sephi stabs Cloud back because, you know, I don't know, revenge or whatever. And Cloud pulls the most metal move I've ever seen in my life. He grabbed a sword, impales himself further, and then lifts up Sephi, who's holding the sword, which I still don't understand. Sephi, just let go of the sword, bro. Just let go. But I guess he was so shocked that Cloud did this because that's frankly an insane move. And he's like, what? And then Cloud flings him, and Sephi hits the wall, and the wall explode, and he fall. And then Cloud is like really done at this point. The boy has used all of his strength. He falls down the stairs in the front near Zack, and Zack is like trying to reach over to him, and he's like, you done good, kid. Good job, my boy. They both pass out, and then, like, I think it's through Zack's point of view, like a blurry vision, we see Hojo is here, and then he blacks out again. Chapter 9, We Are Heroes. So Angeal, of all people, starts off this chapter telling Zack, like, you call yourself a soldier, and then walking away. And he's in the lab that we were in previously in Shinra Manor in the, like, underground scary section. Zack is like, Angeal! And he's like slamming the glass thing, and we realize that he's inside one of a test tube because there's all these like bubbles, he's in this liquid. Then there's this cutscene where Zack is like, I want wings too. He's in this like cloud area that's really, really reminiscent to me of Kingdom Hearts 3. Then we see that Zack has broken the glass and is outside of his little test tube on the floor. A researcher comes over, he knocks him out. And then he's able to drain the fluid and get Cloud out of his container, but Cloud is unconscious. It seems like Cloud is really, really sick, and he's like in this coma state. But regardless, they get the heck out of Shinra Manor. And we get a ton of text as we're doing this. Mail saying that Zack and Sephi were both killed in action. Kunsel crying and being like, don't tell me it's true. It can't be true, Zack. Also, I just want to point out during this time, like, Cloud is unresponsive, right? But Zack is so tender and loving and caring to this boy, being like, I'm gonna put you down here, I'm gonna go check stuff out, I'll come back, don't worry. Like, communicating everything to him, it's very sweet. It just shows how of a good boy Zack is. It's very heartwarming and very caring because they're in a really bad situation right now. We find out that the real villagers of Nibelheim are all gone and replaced with like actors. The town is also completely rebuilt as if the fire never happened, which makes no sense because like how do they do that in this short a time? And then infantrymen come and attack us, being like, Hojo's samples have escaped! Which, you know, feels bad because we're not samples, we're people, but okay. After fighting, Zack doesn't feel well because, you know, he just got out of a freaking test tube. So they go back to Shinra Manor to like kind of recuperate. Zack realizes that Cloud's illness might actually be mako poisoning. And he goes and finds a change of clothes in the Shinra Manor. So now they're twinning because they're both wearing a soldier first class uniform. Then after Cloud is changed, he just like flops over. And Zack's like, I guess I can't save anyone, huh, Angeal? Then he takes a look at the note that Aerith gave him with all the 23 tiny wishes. And he finds out that she put them all into one. That I'd like to spend more time with you. So after reading that, Zack tells Cloud like, hey, I need to go to Midgar. Wanna come with me? They escape from the town after a very painful minigame where you have to snipe things. That didn't work out so well for me. It's very long, it's very painful. The boys finally arrive at like a shorefront beach pretty area. And then Zack puts Cloud down and he looks at the moon. And he's like, what do I do, Angeal? Because the boy's in a pickle. Then Cissnei arrives and Zack knows it's her. And she's like, you're the fugitive sample, aren't you? And Zack's like, yeah. And Cissnei's like, what did they do to you in that, like, lab? But Zack doesn't say what happened. He's like, just this or that. And as a player, we are like Cissnei, we don't know what happened to them, which is kind of a horrifying thought. Zack knows that she's here to take both Zack and Cloud back. And Cissnei very clearly does not want to do it, but it's her job and she feels like she has to. And Zack's like, please walk away. I do not want to be fighting you. I thought we could outrun the armory, that's one thing, but to outrun the Turks, that's a whole nother thing. Cissnei attacks, but it's very clear her heart's not in it. Zack runs away and tells her, like, you know, stay away, because he doesn't want to fight. Zack tells Cloud, like, we gotta stay here, we can't move, because it's too dangerous, the Turks are in the area, it's bad. But he still manages to stay positive in the situation, being like, we'll be alright. Which is like, will you, baby? Will you be alright? He still has this upbeat sense, which is very moving to me. Then Cissnei comes over, and Zack's like, girl, what'd I tell you? And she's like, no, wait. She makes a call to Tseng, being like, I've lost the target. And then she gives him keys to a car, so we can get the hecky out of here. On the highway, we get ambushed, because of course we do, we just can't have a moment of peace in this world. Genesis and the Genesis copies come, they're really annoying. One of the Genesis copies rips out a chunk of Zack's hair and eats it, which leads to this iconic line.
No way. He just ate my hair.
And then the one that ate the hair gets all messed up. It's this really hard boss monster that like died a lot on, don't worry about it. They keep driving until Zack realizes that they're in his hometown of Gongaga. Gongaga. But he can't go into his hometown, like, house, or really even inside the actual, like, town itself, because the Turks are there and they, like, blocked off a lot of stuff. And Cissnei is like, you are so predictable. Obviously, Zack wants to see his parents, but he can't, so he asks Cissnei, like, well, how's my mom doing? And Cissnei's like, she's worried how you're gonna be able to get married after this scandal. But his family are nice people and they're doing well, and this comforts Zack. Zack also asks, like, well, how are your folks doing? But Cissnei was raised inside Shinna, so it's like she doesn't really have any, which is sad. Cissnei also tells Zack that security is really tight right now, not just because of you, but because Angeal was spotted in the area. We have gotten mail about this over the last couple chapters, or at least the last chapter, saying that like there have been a lot of different Angeal spottings, but he's been very, very weak. And Zack isn't surprised by this news at all, but Cissnei's like, shouldn't you be? You're the one who like killed him, and now there's like supposed to be Angeal walking around? Zack says he thinks that Angeal is the one that helped them escape their like test tubes and get out of Shinna Manor. Which it could be true. We actually don't know how he broke out. Was that all just like a vision or a dream that he had, and because he thought he saw Angeal, he broke himself out? Or did Angeal actually help him? We don't know. Technically, we don't know. Cissnei buys us a little more time, which is nice. Thank you, Cissnei. She agrees to spend time with Zack's parents while Zack gets the hecky out of there and tries to find Angeal. On the way, we meet more Genesis copies because of course we do, but this time they're all chanting, S-cells, S-cells. And then Hollander, of all people, shows up. Looking crusty, dusty, he has a tiny stupid little wing. He basically explains that he had to do this to himself because he was gonna die because Genesis like injured him beyond the point of recovery. And he explains that Zack's cells are useless because Zack's cells were already mutated because he was a soldier. So they need somebody who wasn't soldierified with the Mako energy stuff to get the S cells from. And guess who has pure S cells in their body? Our boy Cloud. And Genesis is like, we need those pure S cells because that'll stop the degradation. So we gonna get your friend. We know you have him. This leads to a lot of shenanigans. Basically, Zack fights and kills Hollander. And then we see Angeal, like, white hair looking extremely degraded, like, fight off these other guys. Zack greets Angeal, but Angeal actually reveals that it's not him. It's not actually him. That he's an Angeal copy. And it's Lazard. He explains that he wanted revenge and he needed Hollander to help him get the revenge. And, you know, this one thing led to another. Now he's Angeal. He looked like Angeal, but he's freaking Lazard. And, like, I'm sorry, to me, this is the part of the story that bothers me maybe the most, or a big part, is, like, there needed to be more of Lazard. Like, why did Lazard feel the need to do the revenge? How did he end up, I like that it's like, whoa, it's Lazard. That was kind of interesting. But I wanted more about Lazard. Like, I feel like we barely get to know this man during the whole game, but whatever. But ever since Lazard turned into Angeal copy, he's, like, the revenge feelings are kind of lessened, and now he has this like strong desire to help Zack and save Genesis and really like help the whole world. And Zack's like, yeah, that's the Angeal in ya. Zack's like, what should I do? Because I don't understand Genesis at all. I don't know what to do, man. And Lazard's like, well, maybe Angeal will show us the way. And then there's this really nice callback scene where Lazard asks him like, what is your dream? And even after all this time, it's still exactly the same. To be a hero. And Lazard responds the exact same way, that unattainable dreams are the best kind. And that Zack asks Lazard for help, saying that they can all be heroes. And then Zack realizes he knows where Genesis is. Chapter 10, Thanks to Zack. It's the final chapter, baby! We roll up to Benora, but why are we in Benora? Because Genesis is always carrying a dumb apple, and Zack is like, that's how I knew this is where he'd be. Zack leaves Cloud with Lazard, and he goes down into this, like, underground area to find Genesis. The town looks completely different because it did not recover from all of the, like, severe bombing that happened there at the beginning of this game. Inside, we find Genesis's desk, and there's, like, this little interview that young Genesis gave long ago. And he said he dreamed of serving Benora apples to Sephi one day. And that kind of makes Zack, like, feel like, I gotta help this guy. This area is huge. We go through a pretty cave area, we go through this, like, pretty big lake area, we go through a scary prison area. Finally, we get to this, like, cool garden space with a big door. Beyond it is Genesis, of course. And Genesis is like, you've succeeded, Angeal. You have Sephi's, S cells in your body. So it's like the three friends have reunited. Long story short, Genesis connects with the live stream. He screams, he turns into a big thing, we fight the big thing. And when Genesis is back in his human form after we defeat the big thing, he's no longer degrading anymore. And Genesis is like, time to fight again. And Zack's like, man, why is everyone always pushing things on me? Which is true. It's true. This has happened this whole game. Zack definitely doesn't want to fight him. Genesis pushes him to fight. We fight him, we defeat him, all that stuff. Then there's this cutscene of, like, Genesis in, like, this live stream, and he meets Minerva, this goddess, and she's like, and then he falls. Zack takes Genesis's body outside, and then we meet up with Lazard and Cloud, who are already, like, outside near this Benora apple tree. Everybody looks like hell. Lazard explains that they were attacked by Shinna. He's, like, hunched over. Cloud is, like, sitting in a chair, just still in a coma. We propped Genesis on the other side. He's hunched over. Lazard explains that Angeal dog bird thing from the church came and helped them fight because they were having a hard time. And that touches Zack and makes him cry. And then Lazard passes away. Zack gives everybody a dumb apple and is like, let's eat, time to eat. I don't know, it's a very sad scene, it's very lonely, because everybody's, like, dead or in a coma. But then Genesis speaks, and that really caught me off guard. I forgot he was not dead. And he says, the dream came true. Lazard and the Angeal dog disappear because, when you die, you just kind of, like, turn into dust and go into the live stream. And Zack notices that the dog was carrying a letter from Aerith. And in this letter, she says that it has been 4 years. This is her 89th letter to him, and her last one. She tells him that the flowers are selling well and that they've made a lot of people happy, all thanks to Zack. And Zack, rightly so, is like, what the hell, 4 years? He is shook. And he's like, last letter? Oh god, we gotta go. He takes Cloud with him, being like, you're gonna make it too, buddy, and bails. Meanwhile, 2 mystery people get out of a helicopter. They grab Genesis and they take him away. And those 2 people are wearing the uniform of a first-class soldier, but instead of having, like, the Shinna logo on their little belly bands, there's some other logo, so mysterious. I honestly have no idea what's going on there. It's gonna be explained in some other game. I'll look into it later. Don't worry about it. This is a Crisis Core recap, okay? Don't worry about it. Then we cut to Tsung and Cisne, and Tsung is like, yo, you gotta bring him back alive, man. I got so much mail for this boy. And Tsung is clearly, like, anxious. Like, you, Cisne, are going to save Zack's life. Like, please do the thing. Please do that. And Cisne is a lot less anxious. She's like, I got this, bro. I gonna save Zack. We also have a cutscene of Reno and Rude in a helicopter, like, searching. Where's Zack? Where's Cloud? Zack puts Cloud down, and then he walks off. And Cloud is starting to feel better, like recovering from the coma. And he reaches out to Zack, but Zack's walking away. He doesn't see. And then we are in it. We see an enormous amount of the Shinna army, all coming for Zack. Zack's like, oh man, the price of freedom sure is steep. He says, embrace your dreams and whatever happens, protect your honor as a soldier, and flies into battle. This last fight scene thingy is exceptionally touching. We reflect on all of our bonds in the DMW, so we have Sephi, Tsung, and Cisne first. And as they, like, get removed from the DMW because we're getting injured, you, like, have these flashbacks of all of the, like, interactions that you've had with these people over the game. Then Angeal and Cloud, kind of memories start flashing, and Aerith comes at the very end being like, hello! And as Angeal and Cloud's like getting wiped from the DMW, Aerith's remains. So for like a small portion, it's only Aerith that's like being on the DMW, which is just, it kills me. It kills me every time. It's so simple, but it kills me. Then there's a cutscene of Zack being like really beat up. The entire area is like completely like decimated. It's all like blackened and just messy. There's fires. It's a mess. And then the game pulls the cruelest move it possibly could, but it's also extremely effective. So like I hate it, but I appreciate the storytelling aspect of it, even though I hate it, because it makes you play as a very weak Zack who can barely walk as you're trying to fight. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. He gets shot and then he's down. That's it. The game cuts again, but you can't do anything because you're just out. And then memories of Aerith play, and then Aerith's DMW, which was, again, only on rotation, fades away. Then there's a cutscene of Aerith in her Final Fantasy VII clothes, you know, standard getup. It begins raining and she can sense what has happened. As Zack is dying, Cloud is able to crawl over to him because he's still really like sick and, you know, coming out of a coma. Zack tells him that you need to live for both of us and then gives him the Buster Sword, being like, you are my living legacy. Zack dies and then Cloud screams and then music plays. And Why by Ayaka, the song that plays, is one of the few songs in this world where I hear the first few chords and I can start immediately crying. Cloud leaves with the Buster Sword and is kind of like making his way back into town. He's still really injured. And then the clouds, not the boy, the clouds part. The rain stops and an angel comes down, who we all know is Angeal. His name is basically Angel. His face is never shown, but we all know who it is. And he pulls Zack up and takes him away. And Zack mentions that he's always thought it would feel really good to be in the sky. And it does feel good. And the last line of the game is Zack saying, "Would you say I became a hero?" And of course he did, okay? And that's the end of Crisis Core. Listen, I understand that this isn't a perfect game, okay? There are definitely some funky parts of this story. However, I think it does a beautiful job showing Zack's growth and his overall, like, journey through, frankly, a really, really hard time. I think it's undeniable that this ending really punches you directly in the solar plexus as hard as it could with the feelings. Like, good God. I don't think a video game has ever made me cry that much. And let me tell you, it happens every single time I revisit this story. I'm crying, I'm on the floor sobbing. I love seeing the progression of a boy who is very like naive and seeing the world as a very like black and white place. Like, I'm totally loyal to Shinna, I'm the good guy here, I want to be in first class, I want to be the star student, I want to be the hero. And then to be thrust in, frankly, a very, very gray area with a lot of, like, shenanigans going on. And having to come to terms with the fact that Shinna not only has done a lot of horrendous things directly to all of his friends, but that they have done something horrible to him and Cloud as well. And I think this game does a really good job of exploring the concept of, like, how do you deal with an idealized version of something ending up being not what you thought, or end up being evil. Because really, Zack has the, I think, background to be like Genesis and get bitter and resentful and be like, I'm just gonna burn the world. Like, Zack could have been like that. He could have done it. Because Zack got so screwed over during this game. Like, my boy was done dirty. But he never lets those moments stick to him and define him and change him as a person. He just keeps on going. And I would say a majority of the characters in this game fall to their feelings of revenge. They can't get out of their horrible situations, and those horrible situations in turn kind of shake the bedrock of who they are. But to see Zack's unwavering belief in other people, and that he sticks to his principles and to who he is and does the right thing even if it's harder, that's really, really inspiring to me. In some ways, I think it's only natural human nature to have some of the bad things kind of end up defining you, or defining how you see things, or to make you more wary, or to make you more jaded. Because in some ways that's a defense mechanism, right? Like, if you've been screwed over when you're put in X situation, you don't want to keep feeling pain if you do that. So it makes sense why people do that. And in some ways, I think the more that you allow those traumatic things to change your personality, at least for me, the more it's like they've robbed something from you. And it's really easy to clown on Zack for just being like you know, puppy, kind of like a kid. He gets duped by kids, that kind of stuff. But I also think it takes a tremendous amount of like strength to keep and hold your child self and your like kind of pure outlook on life in frankly a really corrupt and messed up world. And I think by Zack living like this, it gives him this like unfaltering sense of himself, like who he is, what kind of life he wants to lead and has led, and it's one to be proud of. I think that's also what makes him, to me, an aspirational hero, because that, I think, is what real strength really is. I think also for me personally, like, this is an extremely relatable growth arc for a character, because this game came out when I was just, like, starting to become an adult, being like, wait a minute, life isn't as easy as get a good grade and then succeed in class. I'm now playing Reunion as a fully grown adult human struggling with my own stuff. Although thankfully my own stuff isn't Shinna stole 4 years of my life and experimented on me, this kind of stuff. I have lived experience of how difficult it is to stay optimistic when things feel exceptionally bleak. Or even like not letting toxic people or like, I don't know, crappy situations really stick to you. That does not come easy, okay? Like, I know certain personalities maybe are more prone to this and that, but as someone who is a super pessimistic person who is trying to actively change that, it takes a lot of work and a lot of inner strength. You have to be really dedicated to that way of existing, that you want to be seeing the good in other people and really believing in that, because it is so much easier to just fall back and be like, yeah, everything sucks. We can't control the external factors that get thrown at us in life, you know? The only thing we control is how we choose to react to all of that crap. And how we choose to react to that, in the end, defines what kind of person we're gonna be. And I think that's something that, frankly, Angeal has taught him in the time that they were together. You don't just have honor and dreams to be, like, flashy and to be, like, this cool soldier man. You do it to anchor yourself, to know what's really important here, so you don't get lost in the sauce, and God, there's a lot of trauma in this world, that you don't just get swept away by that. And when things get difficult for me, I do think of this goofy boy with anime hair and a comically large sword, okay? I do think of him. So I guess the thesis statement of this whole video is that Zack Fair is a true hero. And Zack Fair is the bestest boy. Anyway, that is the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of feelings, so the script got really, really, really long, and even after I edited it all the way back, like I took out a lot of stuff, I feel like this video is still going to be quite hefty, so I appreciate you watching until the end. I look forward to making more of these videos. I like the style of just like, girl, let me tell you about this game. I think it's just fun, and for the people who kind of already know, sometimes it can be interesting to hear other people's like perspectives on different scenes and stuff like that, or like what stood out to so-and-so versus what didn't stand out to you. It's always fun, at least for me, to watch other people do this kind of stuff, so I hope you enjoyed, and until I see you in whatever I see you in next, remember to be kind to others, especially yourself. Take care, and I'll see you later. Okay, bye-bye!